Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 287 of the Civil Gore podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian, and we have a fun, it's a fun episode for me. I'm in a good mood, but the topic is kind of a heavy,
it's kind of a heavy movie,
movie there. As like Kim and Ket said, they did a great job on it because, you know, they're so heavy on their comedy, but I think they did a great job of going through the seriousness when they did this movie. And by the way, the movie is The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster, which is a very highly praised movie, and I see why now that I saw it. But they did a good job on keeping it, like, you know, trying to keep the seriousness of it intact while still doing their typical brand. I think they did a really good job of balancing.
Yeah, I've been really wanting to see this one ever since I heard about it and it got such rave reviews. And then I listened to the Kim and Ket episode on it, and I even wanted to see it even more. So I'm glad you picked this one for this week, because that was definitely high on my list.
Yeah, but I told Tim that before. I was like, I'm in a good mood now too because the Rangers won. They had a very exciting, dramatic win in the outdoor stadium series game. So I was like, it was looking like I was going to come into this podcast a little droopy because they basically were down 2 goals in the final 5 minutes and scored, and then won in overtime in the first 10-15 seconds. So it was a nice way to ease into this podcast here.
All right, well, let's get right to our first chop. All right, Brian, well, I don't have a whole lot to talk about movie-wise. I'll let you kick things off since you got 4 to talk about. I've only got 2 and an extra little side project I'm doing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I'll start off the first one, going through my horror challenge, which I'm remarkably going strong. I don't know how I'm pulling this off, but I think it's my theory of what I do is I just start watching the movie at lunchtime. I download it onto my iPad. I watch it at lunch during work and finish it when I get home. So that way I'm like, I basically sometimes I've even been watching a second movie later on that night, so it was making it easy. So, but one of them was Here for Blood, which is that new one on Screambox where it's like this professional wrestler gets caught up in babysitting duty. No, it is not Suburban Commando, much different. So he gets. Oh no, sorry, Mr. Nanny, not Suburban Commando. Right? I don't know. Are they both kind of the same?
There's a lot of movies
both similar
like that.
plots.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and this one is one of those great horror comedies where it's over the top gore and craziness and a lot of great one-liners and some hilarity ensues. And it's just one of the, it's one of those movies that you can't help but you can't not have fun watching it. It's just a great. And Jeff Whitmire did a whole a watch party, but I forgot that he was doing that, and I watched it right before it. I would have liked to watch that along the first time with him and his group because he's like the master of watch parties, second only to Joe Bob.
Yeah, he really does a great job with them.
But yeah, no, this one is great. Tons of over the top crazy gore, silliness, and just the cast is really funny. You could tell they went all in on making this good, and it totally pays off. I think you would have fun with the the kids could watch. I mean, it's a lot of gore, but it's that over the top gore that probably
which they don't care. Yeah,
wouldn't even phase them.
They wouldn't mind at all. They think everything looks so fake anyway these days.
Yeah, I think they'd get a kick out of that one. Especially there's there's a young girl in it as the babysittee, I guess. And she's pretty funny, and it gets caught up in all the craziness.
I watched one called The Prowler from 1981, and this is related to another thing I'm doing, which I'll talk about in a minute. But The Prowler was a slasher that came out in the early 80s that's very, very... It's almost the same plot line as My Bloody Valentine. Almost exactly. Even the killer kind of looks the same, because he's got this mask on, this World War II mask, but it kind of looks like the almost looks like the minor mask from My Bloody Valentine. There's a reason this one's probably not remembered as much as My Bloody Valentine is because it's not as good. But I will say, if you haven't seen this one, definitely check it out because Tom Savini did the effects on it.
I was going to say, I thought this was a Salvini
Yes, it was a Salvini classic. And it's some of his, I think some of his best kills, actually. There were some really good effects in this one. So even though the movie itself is not that great, it's kind of formulaic, The watch it for the Savini effects. They're really, really good. There's some great kills in this one. So
Oh, and Lawrence Tierney's in this one.
Yeah.
Oh, so did he say he's in the bathroom?
I don't think
Did he
so,
say that?
but yeah, if you're a Lawrence Tierney fan, you would like this one. It's worth watching.
Oh, how could you not be?
It's definitely
He's
worth
awesome.
watching. It's kind of a forgotten 80s slasher, but I really enjoyed it just for the effects and the fact that it was a 80s slasher I hadn't seen before.
I got to tell you too, something about like those forgotten 80s slashers. There's always, even the worst of the 80s slashers have some kind of like this charm to it that like makes them all watchable no matter how actually bad they might be.
They feel familiar.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I love watching an 80s slasher.
Yeah, that was a fun watch to check that one out.
Yeah. And it leads into mine because I watched one also, which was X-Ray, which, Tim, you need to see. Don't let Olivia watch it because you said she doesn't like hospital movies. But this one is like as 80s like slashers you can get, kind of like with everything that you usually find in it. And it's just like this, like basically the premises, and it's a Valentine's Day movie too, so which is pretty funny. It's like basically it's Barbie Benton plays this single, well, it's not really single mother in the fact that they're divorced, but I think she's dating someone in it. But it was kind of funny. So she basically, the premise is she was going to pick up her kid late because she has to go to the hospital to get test results, which is just weird in general, the way this whole premise is set up. But she gets to the hospital and so they basically she basically gets trapped in this hospital by this killer that's like out to get her, which I don't want to spoil the reason why for those who want to watch it, but it's set up pretty easy and I don't think it's a secret. It's not like it's that pretty much you watch the opening scene, you'll know who probably the killer is. But the whole point of it, is it's like this hospital is so poorly run. It's like just like they're letting anyone just wander around and go through there, and they would let some guy walking around drunk, like with a hamburger. It's so bizarre.
The hospitals back then were kind of like that. I think they were you didn't have any of the security or the smoking. I love watching these old movies and the doctors are like smoking in the waiting room and stuff. That's crazy.
Oh yeah, no, she literally lights up a cigarette while waiting for her doctor to give her, like she's waiting outside the doctor's office in the hospital to get her test results, and she lights up a cigarette.
Like there was no HIPAA compliant. Like the people just come up and are like, "Hey, I need room for so and so." Okay, right over here.
Or you came in and she's like, "Oh, so and so is they here? Oh yeah, go floor 8. Go see the front desk."
These
I'm
days,
like,
man,
"Oh,
they're like, nope, I need this. Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, but I mean, and this one was like fun. I mean, like it didn't have like the greatest kills in it, but like again, it goes back to my statement, like an 80s style slasher, 80s slasher that actually took place in the 80s, because I watched one the other day, was supposedly an 80s style, and it just didn't hit well. But besides that,
well, yeah, an actual 1980s slasher, not one pretending.
Yeah, you needed something actually in the 80s, because I think it's the time. It was just like there was something about it when you and if you grew up in the 80s, you instantly get transported back to that time, and like you remember like the fact that like there's one point where she's literally dialing this giant rotary phone, and I'm like, oh my god, it's like it's just
when I was
days,
watching
like now
Friday the 13th with the kids. It was part 8, I think we were watching, and because I think there was some, maybe it was 8, I can't remember which one it was, but anyway, there was an interior of a house, and might not have been part 8 because I think that was all on the boat, but there was an interior of the house and everything was brown, and I said, Anna, look at this scene. This is the 80s. Everything is brown. All the furniture is brown or yellow or orange. It's brown, orange, and yellow. It's not the neon. It's not what you see on the like throwback stuff. There was some of that existed, but it wasn't what we all grew up in. Like we grew up in brown.
No, it's like at least we didn't grow up in the old days of where everything was carpeted, including like stairs and everything had to have a carpet on it. Oh my
god, yeah.
Like my grandmother's house, when you remember that, you were there at that East Meadow house. There was literally carpet going up the stairs,
and not even just carpet.
The edge of the
shag,
stairs.
like thick
shag. Yeah, it was shag.
It caught everything. Like you could put your hand in there and just feel like crumbs of stuff that was just falling into the carpet. It was disgusting.
Yeah, it's like whose bright idea was like you always there how we always like highlight inventors all the time. We're like, oh, thank God for so and so because he invented this. I want to find the guy that invented the shag carpet, and I think he deserves like whatever the Razzie equivalent of an inventor is.
I remember my house growing up in the 80s. The living room was orange and brown carpet. The couch was black. The kitchen was yellow. So the refrigerator was yellow, the oven was yellow, there was a washing machine that was also yellow. Then you'd go down the hallway.
Wait, there was a yellow washing machine? Oh, I know what that yellow means.
And then
that type of yellow.
My room was red carpet. My brother's room was blue carpet. And my mom's room was green carpet. That's how weird this house was. Oh. And I just, when I go back to that, I'm like, how in the world did I think that was normal growing up? It was crazy.
Yeah, and if you had a pet back then that like shed, you were like a good 3 inches at all times above the actual floor.
That's right. I'm surprised they all didn't have like
that's why they had those high ceilings.
Asthma or something because of all this junk that was caught in the carpet. Ugh.
Yeah, well, but that's also why they had the high ceilings back then. You needed it because you already lost a few inches just by the carpet. So,
good old 80s.
It's a thing. Yeah.
So my next one was one that has been on my list for a long time. Brian is finally excited that I finally got to watch it. 1974, La Possession de Altair. I can't say it.
Yeah, because he says it like Altair.
Yeah,
Altair.
So we always call it Possession de Altair because that's the English word.
Altair,
but in the movie, he says Altair. And he says it so like I can't. I've been trying. While I was watching the movie, I was trying like 30 times trying to mimic how he says Altair. And it's like Altair. And he has some kind of roll to it. I can't do it.
Yeah,
but anyway,
impossible.
Altair is the main, the female character in this, who is obviously the subject of La Possession. And it was, I'll tell you, I'm going to be quite honest. Throughout most of the movie, I thought, this is well done. Okay, it's well done. I like it. I'm enjoying it, but I'm not completely blown away because I'm not seeing anything that's really different from other found footage movies. Honestly, it's kind of a little slow burn here and there, and then okay, there's going to be a big payoff at the end. But when I got through with the movie, in which I can't spoil anything, that's when I got blown away. So it was one of those things where,
right, and that's why I think that you have to see it.
You have to see it as a whole, because throughout most of the movie, I'm going, okay, this is all right. It's well done. It looks 70s because they actually filmed it. They didn't film it and put a filter on it. They actually filmed it on, what was it?
I think it's 16 millimeter. Actually,
yeah, I can't remember the exact millimeter, but it was one of those. So it looks very authentic. And I'm going, okay, this is very well done, but I'm not sure I'm seeing what Brian's seeing in terms of how great this is. Like, it's good. I'm enjoying it, but it's like, what's separating this out? And once I got finished with it, I was like, oh, okay, now I understand. So that's all I can say is I can't give anything away, but watch it and then be prepared to have your mind blown.
Yeah, because I think it seems so authentic. I think because of the actual 60 millimeter, like it feels like something that would be discovered and watched and creepy. Kind of like that's why I think that movie like Sinister works because he's watching it on film, old films. Something about that gives it that extra vibe, and you get that from this. Yeah, and it's like there's and it like you're right though. If you look at it, you break the film down, it really does follow the traditional found footage formula. But I think the fact and the graininess of it, the old school, the confusion of it actually works in its favor because it is subtitled. So, it's that already kind of, if you're trying to really focus on reading what they're saying. And so I think it comes off as just, it maybe if I spoke fluent Spanish, I would see like, oh, okay, yeah, he definitely sounds like he's acting, but I think maybe because I didn't understand a lot of it, it made it.
I was
so
about
much
to
better.
say that it's because I can't really tell how great their acting is because it's a different language. So I'm not, I'm busy trying to read the subtitles and stuff. So I can't really tell the way I would with an English cast how authentic.
But I think they did.
I think they did, but.
Because the emotion was there. You could tell
you can't really tell the authenticity of like the words and things because the subtitles kind of abstracts all that. So I don't know. I really liked it, but again, it's one of those that it was so funny that I was sitting there watching it going, all right, I mean, it's good, Brian, but why are you raving about it? Then it all made sense. So Definitely go check that one out.
Yeah,
It's on Roku only.
and I think yeah, and it's on Roku, but it's hey, Roku you can get
Yeah.
for free, so it's good. But what why it like hit me so well is because it was during that like found footage formula, and I remember I kept like dozing off through different because it was a 24-hour straight film festival. So I remember I dozed off, and somewhere I think this appeared like at like 12 at night. So I woke back up right as the last movie before this was ending, and I was like, okay, I'm awake. Should I go to bed or no? Let me watch another whatever's next. And I ended up watching this next. So it was like like it was like I got rewarded for like for waiting. But speaking of this one was another one. I think you'll like this one, Tim. This one was Live Scream. This one was like it debuted online again. I see that's a lot lately. These YouTube films are debuting for free online at a certain time. And this one is basically it's just the simplest premise. It's a guy. He's one of those video game streamers like that you would find on Twitch. He plays games each week, and through his chats, you kind of get a vibe about him, his character, some of the other characters that are in the chat room with him, and it's really well done that way. And so he basically plays a game that he's haunted, and he realized that like the people that are in there with him in the chat are all gonna get knocked off one by one because this game is kind of possessed or haunted. And it's a horror-based game he's playing, and the guy that plays it is so good. He seems like such a Twitch guy. Like it's like he must do that also, like as a side. And it was so well done, and I think it's a quick watch too. It's like just over an hour.
It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube for free. Just look it up, Live. And I think they made I think the director might have made a short of this first or something, and then I think they're making a sequel to it also. I don't know. It was another one that, thank God for Jeff Whitmire, tipped me off on it. He was posting about it. So I didn't get to watch it live, but I watched it later that night, I think, and it was really, really fun movie.
Nice. Well, my last one is not a movie. I'm actually going through and starting another project, and this is my Joe Bob project because, as you know, obviously I'm a big fan of The Last Drive-In, but I haven't seen all of them because I catch them as I can, and then sometimes you got something going on that night, you can't catch it on a Friday, so a lot of times the holiday ones sometimes I miss. So I was like, you know what, I need to go back and watch these. So the problem was when you go to Shudder and you search up The Last Drive-In, you'll get like a bunch of them, but then you're going to miss some because some are listed under Joe Bob because it's like Joe Bob's Halloween Hootenanny or something. That one's listed under Joe Bob. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to find every freaking Joe Bob there is and figure this out. So then you start digging in and you realize it's completely out of order. Like Shudder has not put these in the correct order. Like they have seasons that don't make any sense.
I noticed that. Yeah, because I was trying to find a particular one once, and it was like
it's horrible. Like it's not in any semblance of order. So what I did is I went through Shudder and I found every one and I basically put it in a spreadsheet. And I said it's either, and I color coded it like, is this the whole episode, like the movie and the interstitials, or there's a section in Shudder which is just the interstitials for movies they no longer have the rights for.
Right, which kind of stinks.
But still, what's nice is they give the timestamps in there, so if you can find the movie on another streaming service, you can watch it and know when to pause it to go to the interstitial and back. So you can kind of cut it together. So I was like, okay. And unfortunately, there are some that they don't have the interstitial or the movie. But it's not... I would say they've probably got 85% you could either watch the whole thing or piece it together. So... What I did is I went out to the Wikipedia article. So the Wikipedia article on The Last Drive-In has every episode in the correct order it aired, the exact air date, everything. So that's what I used as that's what I used as my master list. Then I went back and kind of slotted in what Shudder had to each of those slots and figured out what was missing, what I could watch the whole episode, what I would have to piece together. And for this particular project, I'm not going back and watching movies again, like Tourist Trap. I've seen a billion times. Like, I'm not going to go back and watch Tourist Trap again. Yeah. I'll just watch the interstitials. But it's given me a chance for movies like The Prowler, which is one of in the Last Drive-In Marathon, the very first thing he did on Shudder. The Prowler was one of those. So it gives me a chance to like watch those movies for my horror movie 365 challenge and get my Joe Bob stuff in at the same time. So I'm going to go back through, try to watch everything that's available, and then hopefully at some point I'll be caught up and I can actually participate on the Friday nights and go, you know what, I'm caught up. This is all brand new. I'm excited. and go from there. So that's my big Joe Bob project. Obviously, it's a lot of content to go through, but I have seen most of the movies already. So it's just going to be, if you watch just the interstitials, it's usually only about anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes. So it's not all
right.
It's not going to be.
Yeah, you can kind of.
Yeah, it's not going to be like an insurmountable challenge to knock all these out and catch up. So, yeah.
Well, I will say this: being on the West Coast now, it is so much easier to watch a full Joe Bob thing.
I
most of the time would fall asleep by the end of the. There's no way I could and you would always see people too that said, "I'm sorry, I'm just so tired, I gotta go." It's like because like the last one, the Valentine one, was 5 hours long for movies that were only an hour and a half. There was so much padding in there, but I was done, and I was like, oh, okay, you know what? It's like 6 o'clock. It's like now 11 o'clock. I mean, it was still late, and I'm like, oh my God, this would have been 2 a.m. in New York.
That's crazy.
I would have been way.
I mean, I like
hours.
that they don't like time it to like. I mean, they don't make it like so rigid that it has to be done within 3 hours or whatever. But I mean, they give him time to just do whatever. But at the same time, like, man, here on the East Coast, it's like getting around midnight, and I'm going, we're only halfway through this movie. I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah, it's hard. Well, remember the next season though that starts this year is only one movie. It's not double features anymore. But Darcy did confirm. She said like the specials will most likely be multiple movies, like 2 or 3 movies. So to make up for it, I think Shudder did that because of one of the reasons we just said. I think it's because it's way too long, and now that they simulcast them also on AMC, I think AMC tries to keep it within a certain time.
That makes sense.
And so and that's also why things get edited. He had to edit out something he said. He came back and he goes, "Nope, I guess we can't do that." Like in the last episode, something with the kinks list that he was doing. It was something he was going to try and do, and he says, like, I guess when they came back from the break, they said no, he couldn't do it. So
that sucks.
But whatever it was, I don't know. It's funny. But Darcy's cosplay was pretty good that night. She was like on point. She was actually pretty funny, and it was just like some of her reactions.
It's so weird though watching, because I'm starting in order, so I'm watching like from the very first thing he did on Shudder, when Darcy was like basically just a blip. She was like barely on there, and she has maybe 1 or 2 lines, and just to think you're like, that's where it started, and now how such an integral part of the show she is really interesting to see the progression.
Well, do you remember when we met her? We met her the first time at New Jersey Horrorcon, and we went in and we were talking to her, and she was like, "I'm so nervous.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to be." She was actually at that point really like kind of new into the world of Joe Bob. So it was like, I think she hadn't even got her footing yet. And I think she was probably a little nervous to maybe push out her knowledge, because she knows a tremendous amount of things. Like, I mean, so she is like she is like the perfect like co-host with him, because she knows all the things, and he goes to her for questions sometimes. He goes, "Hey, do you remember what this was?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah, it was this and that." So she's like, you can't like pass her off as like just like an eye candy thing. She knows her stuff, and she's funny, and she reacts well with him, and they make like an amazing team. They're a pretty good team. But yeah, so it was so funny, and how different she even was at the con the next time. Remember, she was way more outgoing and more like talkative and everything. So it shows, and good for her, because she is a good such a good part to that. He's great, of course. But to have her with it is makes that show now. That show has hit its full stride, and it's like
it's like when they introduced Urkel on Family Matters, and then he ended up taking over the entire show. Like, he started off as like a one-off character, and then he became so popular that he was like, that's all they did was Urkel episodes when Family Matters hit its last seasons.
Yeah, well, I think one of the funniest episodes with him in it too is that one. Do you ever see the one where they get trapped on the train?
Yeah.
And he just wants to do Christmas spirit. He's like, "But Carl, we need the Christmas spirit." And they like all want to like strangle him on there. And
my gosh.
It's so funny. He's like, "Nah." He's like, "Miss, what do you want to do for Christmas?" But at that point, it was like you could tell he was older, and he was like so forcing that voice. Like, remember the last couple seasons, the voice was just not the same. Like, it just sounded.
I tried to get Anna, because Anna's watched Full House every season. She's watched the entire series. I think there's 7 seasons of Full House. She's watched every season 14 times in a row. She's watched, or not 14 in a row, but 14 times she's seen the entire Full House series. So I tried to get her hooked on Family Matters, just for anything, just for a change of pace. And she was having none of it. Because I was like, it's kind of Full House adjacent. It's very, she was not into that. And in fact, I think there was a sequence. There was something where Urkel was on Full House. I think there was a crossover.
There was a crossover because it was when that ABC family.
That's why I tried to get her. I was like, ooh, that's my in to get her hooked on Family Matters. But she was like, nah, I'm good.
Really? You know what? You got to find the funniest episode and just throw it on. Like the one where Carl falls off the roof. That's one of my. Yeah. Do you remember that one? That's one of my favorite ones because they're singing up on the roof, and then he just goes, ah!
Oh my gosh!
Because Reginald VelJohnson doesn't get credit for as good as a comedian he was.
Yeah. He just gets cast as a cop.
So many people just know him from Die Hard.
He's the cop in everything. He just became so stereotyped as a cop, but he is so much more talented than that.
Yeah, I mean, because so many people know him from Die Hard, but if they see him on this, his comedy chops, it's just his I feel like, you know what someone should do? Just a master edit of the people that get annoyed the most as actors. His reactions to Urkel, Paul Giamatti to everything, Harvey Keitel to Cats. Someone should make a master edit of all those people just in a room getting annoyed with each other.
Some of my favorite now, I'm not obviously not as huge a Full House fan as Anna. But some of my favorite reactions were Bob Saget's annoyance at Kimmy Gibbler from Next Door. Those were classic. Oh. Kimmy
Gibbler. And she was on the new show.
Yeah, they got her back. They
got
her back for
somehow,
the new
right?
show. Yeah. But
nice.
We went way off subject. Okay.
I know, way off subject, of course, but that's our podcast. I mean, we get to here, but we'll finish it off. I'll bring it right back because this will also tie into our movie a little bit. So I went to the movies last night, actually, because I'm dying to see Lisa Frankenstein, and oh my god, I love this movie. Tim, this is a movie this is a good daddy-daughter movie for you and Anna to go see, I think, just because it's so it's such a fun
we almost went and saw this
80s
because
throwback.
We had a date night Friday night. We had never gone out. We didn't go out for Valentine's Day, so we did that Friday night. And we went out to this really nice dinner. It was a great Mexican place. It's right beside the movie theater that we really like. And got these giant, big-ass margaritas that we did not realize when we ordered them how big they were. But after that, we went...
He sent a picture. I can tell you they're big.
And then we went afterwards. There's this great ice cream shop called Kilwins.
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, we went there with you, remember?
We went to the one downtown. Well, they have one right near my house now,
right
at the theater. So now I'm in big trouble. But it's a lot smaller. But
those aren't supposed to be in residential areas. They're only supposed to be in the touristy areas. What are they trying to do?
Yeah, that's dangerous. So we had Kilwins, and I was like, okay, well, we're right here by the movie theater. You want to go to see a movie? And I was really leaning Lisa Frankenstein because that's really the only thing that we kind of both had an interest in. But the only showing they had was 9:45, and Olivia's like, "There's no way I'm gonna make it till midnight. No way." So we ended up passing on it. But I came this close to seeing it.
Oh, yeah, definitely go see it. You could actually take the whole family. It's PG-13.
Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah.
I mean, that's the sexual instances in that movie are done so innocently, if you can imagine, they're and it's just done so well. And the soundtrack, oh my god, will blow you away. There's some great songs on there, and there's some cool versions of songs that well. I ordered the soundtrack as soon as I got home. Actually, yeah, and it was just so good. Catherine Newton is great. That guy, I guess Cole Sprouse, the one that plays the quote unquote type of Frankenstein in this, was really good, even though he does not. Well, not the spoiler alert. Very, very few lines he utters, I'll just say. But it was it had a great amount of comedy. It was a lot of fun. And we had a theater that was literally, when I bought the tickets, there were 2 other seats. When we got there, those were the only 2 seats filled, and then our 4 seats. And then 2 people eventually came behind us. But it was funny. So it was the laugh, you could hear everyone laugh, very clearly when it was something funny. And there was just some great lines in it. Great, it was just so well done. It was I purposely didn't read much about it. I knew the basic plot of it, but I didn't want to know much about it. And so I went in that way really good because it was a lot of great twists and stuff that I didn't think it was going to be like that per se. And it was just really good. Catherine Newton, I think every horror movie she's done I liked. Nice. Seriously. Even the Paranormal Activity 4. But she's got a nice little horror she's got a good horror comedy
Yeah,
cred.
yeah. Okay,
thing
that's good.
going.
That'll
So
definitely go higher up on my list then.
yeah, and this was Zelda Williams directed it. So that I don't is that I can't remember how many.
It's her
is that
first,
her
yeah, it's her
movie
first
she
feature
directed?
film. Yeah,
Yeah, because I mean, as a first feature, then it's even more impressive. It was how good it was. But it's of course written by Diablo Cody, and they said it takes place in the Jennifer's Bodies universe. I didn't personally see anything that would like indicate that per se, but I mean I've seen Jennifer's Body like once or
yeah. It's
twice,
been a
so I'm
while.
not like an expert in it, and it's been a while, so I don't know. Like I don't know if unless it was flat out like Megan Fox walking by or something. I don't think I would have caught any kind of reference to it. But there was one little Easter egg in there that that if you know Catherine Newton, you might pick up. But because there's kind of like something of her real life. I think it has to be intentional. But I think you would love it. I think the kids would actually love it. It's actually a great gateway horror movie because it has that family horror kind of vibe, if that makes sense.
Nice.
But
yeah.
really, really, yeah, I loved it. I could see people like that could be a movie I could just see always popping on, like once it comes out to home, release and Blu-ray or something, or a digital copy. I could see myself watching it over because it's just one of those fun movies, very Tim Burton-esque too. So it was cool. So if you like Tim Burton stuff, you'll like this.
So we are talking about The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. Came out last year, directed by Bomani J. Story.
Again, first time feature
and
director.
Hope
for
I don't
this.
mess his names up. We have Laya De Leon Hayes as Vicaria, Denzel Whitaker as Kango, Chad L. Coleman as Donald, Riley Brooks Stith as Aisha, Keith Holiday as Jamal, Amani Summer as Jada, Edom Atsu Swansea as Chris/Creature. Vicaria is a brilliant teenager who believes death is a disease that can be cured. After the brutal murder of her brother, she embarks on a dangerous journey to bring him back to life. Which was interesting about this movie is before I heard the Kim and Kid episode, I didn't know anything about it other than the title.
Well, the trailer did I remember we saw the trailer when we did our dismemberment, and both of us were kind of blown away by the trailer. Like, oh, I can't wait. We got to watch this when it comes out. But I don't remember the trailer giving me the plot details to this movie as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and I don't think I remembered the trailer enough when I finally watched this that it didn't spoil anything because it had been that's been a while back when we saw that trailer.
Yeah, it was over the summer, I think, dismemberment, or late summer, early fall.
Yeah, I really didn't know what to expect going in, but I was hooked from the opening 5 minutes. So Vicaria she's growing up in a rough neighborhood, obviously a lot of gang violence, that kind of thing. Not very well off. She's living with her dad and her sisters, and her brother Chris gets shot and killed in a gang incident, and we find out really quickly early on. I'm not going to give a lot of spoilers because I know a lot of people haven't seen this yet, but we find out really quickly early on that Vicaria is convinced that she can cure death and bring people back to life, and of course,
well, yeah, because she has an interesting take on it. She's very very scientifically minded, and she looks at death as a symptom, basically. And so, how you can relieve symptoms, she kind of takes it as, I think I can cure this. There's a way to stop this because it affected her life. Because it starts off strong, a strong sequence of you're like, wow, okay, this movie is going to be heavy at times, and it's basically she lost her mother at an early age. And then she lost her brother, and then she thinks her dad, she basically is been surrounded by violence and death her whole life.
To the point, I would say she's almost numb to it because she sees people getting killed all the time in her neighborhood.
Yeah, she sees it completely as a scientific problem, as well as almost more basically because she's so such a smart character in this, she's so smart. She looks at it as you're right, it's a numbness to it, to where her emotional aspect of it basically is almost now taken over by her scientific look at it. She looks at it scientifically, not as emotionally as some people would. She's more I'm gonna fix this, but but not the normal way. Most people would say, okay, well, maybe we should try and move. Maybe we should try and blah. No, but she's looking at it as, she's no, I'm going to fix this problem with science, kind of basically is the way she looks at it. And it was an interesting take to do that, because she's, and they start right off the bat, the little neighbor calls her mad scientist, so you already know that she's she's kind of got this like mind that's above everybody's. Like she's got this intellect that's like so above and beyond every other character
Yeah.
at that point. No one else looks at everything.
And there's a
the way
scene
she
in her
does.
school early on 'cause she goes to an all-white school. Of course, this is all African American cast except for the occasional white police officer that shows up. But and the teacher in this all-white school. And there's a conflict early on that really showcases her personality and her character, which I thought was a great scene.
Yeah. It was, and actually, like even before that, her line about where like their neighbor says like, "Oh, are you smart because you go to the white school?" And she says, "No, that school is smart because I go to it." And I love that. I'm like, it's like a movie. You're like, yeah, like you tell him, Vicaria, you tell this person, and you go, you like it's rare to see a movie where you get so like behind a character instantly like that, like, and like it's not like it's this is yes, it's based, okay, so it's inspired by Mary Shelley and Frankenstein or the modern Prometheus, right? That's the full title, I think, of the so she so you kind of know the basic, but you don't know Vicaria, you don't know. You know her through what they tell you, but instantly you get behind her and you're rooting for her, and she's likable because it doesn't take anything, she doesn't let her situation get her down.
And I thought that was a brilliant twist on the Frankenstein story because and all the all the depictions of Frankenstein, typically Victor Frankenstein is a villain ultimately.
I like that play, by the way, making her
Vicaria,
and it's Victor Frankenstein.
There's a lot of
little nuances like that. It's great.
Usually Victor Frankenstein is ultimately the villain. Whatever sympathy you have for him at the beginning is pretty much gone by the end of the movie. And I thought it was a brilliant twist on the story in which, in this case, Vicaria is absolutely the hero of the story. And you always feel this sympathy for her, even when things are going wrong. Right. You understand why she's doing what she's doing. It's not like because she's a crazy doctor that's trying to play God. There's a real serious reason why she's trying to do this. She's trying to fix a problem that she doesn't know any other way to get out of.
Right. And I think that's what's great. Like, in the other, so like I guess in the Frankenstein story, like you said, like the Victor Frankenstein, he's like this, he's kind of like doing it for his own personal gain. Here, she doesn't see it that way, and I think that's the whole thing. When I was going, how she looks at the product scientifically is like you can't blame her for any of the things that go on, even though yes, a lot of what happens is because of what she did, but at the same time, it's just, I don't know, it's the way they present it makes it so like you can't like say like, oh, why did she do that, or why did she make that mistake? She doesn't, like, because the way she's looking at everything, it's like almost anyone in her shoes would do the same thing.
You sympathize with her when she does make mistakes. You're not blaming her for it, you're sympathizing with her about the mistakes she's made. Like it's really an interesting twist on the story. And there's obviously all African American cast growing up, gang violence. There's obviously a lot of statements about racial tension, about poverty, about gang violence, and seeing all this filtered through her eyes. This right here, like if there's any doubt why we need diversity in horror, it's a movie like this. This movie is never going to get made by a white guy. Never. You're never going to see this angle of it. You're never going to see this side of it. And if they did make it, it would come off as inauthentic. So I just absolutely loved that you're seeing this different take on horror that I've never seen before and never would see before unless you have diversity in filmmaking. And I don't understand people that they call it woke or they call it whatever, when there's so many interesting stories that come out of seeing things from other people's perspective. Like,
yeah, why would, like, to go to a movie, like, I feel like to go to a movie and it's only your thoughts and your perspective and it doesn't show, how do you grow as a person? How do you grow as anything? Like, yes, movies are entertainment, but still, they can teach a lesson. It could help you grow into things. Like, how many times have you been inspired by a movie like, I want to make films, or I want to do this now? So why can't you see another point? Why can't you be open to another point of view to possibly do the same thing, like, and inspire you to say, you know what, I want to make a change. I don't like what's going on. I don't like the tension, the racial tension going on, or the disparity of things that are going on here. I think, and Kim and Kat had a great segment. I guess they were quoting someone that was saying like about a reviewer that was like that had to review it. I don't want to listen to their episode actually, because it's a great. I don't want to like paraphrase it incorrectly, because it was a very powerful statement that they read from a reviewer who who happened to be black as well, and like was making comments on it. But you're right. I don't think that this movie, I think it's such a good movie because of all the different things it does and the viewpoints it gives, and it's that's why, like, when I wrote for the challenge, I kind of just wrote like a simple like I love this movie, but I can't we need to do an episode to talk all about it, because it's too, you can't. I felt like wouldn't do it justice in a tweet. Thanks to
exactly
Elon, who gives you a small thing unless you pay him, which I will never do. So I figured it definitely was going to, and I knew it was a movie that we had discussed a while ago about doing anyway. So I'm just glad I watched it. So I do want to talk about, for sure, the performances in this, which were so good. And I don't know if you've seen Leia DeLeon Hayes before, but I've seen a lot of her because she was on The Equalizer, and Julie watches that show. So I see a lot of the show, and she's so good in that. And so I was like, and it was so funny. It took me a second to realize who it was. I'm like, why is it? Because Julie was kind of kept popping over my shoulder. I was watching on my iPad, and she was looking over. She's like, what movie are you watching? And I told her. And I was like, the next morning, I said, I realized that was that girl from The Equalizer. She goes, yes, I know. That's why I asked what you were watching. She thought I had an Equalizer episode on. Oh my gosh, she's so good. She's like, I don't think there could have been a more perfect performance of what they wanted to get across from her character than they got, because she was so believable in everything she said. There was not like a bad line that she delivered or an awkward anything. She was just so good. And I love that, even though he's not in it a lot as much as I wanted him to be, the father was so good. Like, that scene when he went in was so powerful. It was short, but it was a powerful thing when he had to talk to the teacher. And it just, that one, he just goes like, teach, and like, basically in that one word, when he yells at her, teach, like that, basically it's everything. It's like, stop, just teach my daughter like any other student should get in here, and stop worrying about, don't mispronounce her name intentionally. Don't give her a hard time because she's coming up with theories that maybe don't agree with you. Basically, but you get all that in his line when he just yells teach her, because, the teacher, that's what she should be doing. She should be teaching, and if the student gets an idea, because that's the whole thing, how that scene starts, without giving too much of a spoiler. She basically, because Vicaria challenges what the teacher says, because she goes, and I have a theory on it. And like, she basically just like kind of argues with her and shuts her down, and then they gets kind of like aggressive with her in terms of like not letting her speak and wanting to like get her in trouble because she had a thought that didn't match. That's not, to me, so I think that line when the father says that is just so powerful, because he's like basically like he shuts that teacher down, and like it's like listen, you better teach my daughter.
Oh, well, that's the great thing about the movies. There's so many layers. You got the whole racial tension layer, the gang violence within their community layer. You've got drugs as an undercurrent. I mean, all these issues, societal issues, that are a backdrop to this horror story. That, again, I don't know that you would get that necessarily from somebody coming in and just doing a straight horror movie. Like, it adds so many more. It's like when I talk about Interview with the Vampire, which Interview with the Vampire, the series, I mean, when they made Louis an African-American character versus the white character in the book, like, it just added this whole layer that you can now explore. And I thought that was so interesting. And it's kind of the same thing here. It's like there's so many layers you can watch this movie on. And I thought it was great. I thought the whole twist on the whole Frankenstein tale was interesting, and it did not go where I thought it was going to go either. Like, it did not go where I thought it was going to go. I thought, okay. I thought on one level when I was watching, I was like, okay, I appreciate this. I like that, this is making a statement about these societal ills and everything against the backdrop of Frankenstein. And there's this nice twist where you're more sympathetic to the mad, quote unquote, mad doctor. But it still didn't go where I thought it was going to go. It still like subverted my expectations. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and also Denzel Whitaker is Kengo, who is like the I guess the
Yeah.
drug kingpin over there, who you kind of like, who does actually, I will say, just keep his character, keep an eye on his character because it develops over the
Yeah.
movie well too, which is another way I did not expect, you know. And there's this Kim. It's funny. It was like Kim and Ket had some such gem lines in there, and I don't want to. I'm afraid to say some of them because I don't want it to spoil. It's just the way she's like, you know how like there was a line I think that Kim said is that how another reason why she was kind of used to the way like, you know, because there was times she was getting pretty like talking tough to these like kind of like, you know, this guy with a
Yeah.
machete is like, you know, one of the like the drug henchmen, and she's like getting all tough to them, but Kim made a good point. She's like, well, she grew up there, they're all in the same neighborhood, they all kind of know each other.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's like this interesting dynamic, and I thought they played it well because you kind of really got that. You're kind of like got like, okay, you know, she like they're all they all realize they're in the same neighborhood. They're neighbors, whether they, you know, they have the same philosophy on how to run a business or whatnot, but for lack of a better term. But I think it was like really well done, and he was so good because he actually does have you know, he has some character shifts in
Yeah.
this movie, and he does a great
and
job on it.
there's some
So
excellent gore in this. That I did not expect.
Yeah.
Like, I did not. I thought this was
I didn't
gonna be,
either.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like a horror movie in that the subject matter is Frankenstein, and I thought that would be kind of the limits of what we would see in terms of the horror. But there's actually some really cool effects and makeup in this movie that are
Yeah.
that I was quite taken aback, like how gory it got at times, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. And you know what I found? I felt like that they did better than a lot of the Frankenstein movies in a weird way. They made the monster, even though you were kind of sympathetic for the monster in this too, because he, you know, he really, you know, it's one of those things where he didn't
Yeah.
ask for this. He, you know, but there was creepy moments like with the little neighborhood girl where she's like,
Yeah.
oh, he's behind you. And they were like little glimpses of him. And you felt that like, you know, like she had the natural reaction, like Vicaria had the natural reaction by being scared,
Yeah.
you know, like, and that's supposedly her brother, but still she got scared.
The monster
It
was kind
scary,
of
and the
scary
way
in
that
this
little-
one. Not
Yeah, they did a great job not forgetting the horror of it.
which I think
on
again
top of it.
that plays
You know,
into
in-
like you being sympathetic towards the doctor more than the monster in this, because I
Yeah.
was sympathetic towards him from a knowing the story standpoint, but I
Right.
wasn't necessarily sympathetic towards him because of his portrayal, because his portrayal was actually very scary.
Right, yeah, it was actually really, and there were some like really creepy, like unnerving moments where it's like, you know, that's what I feel is so good with this movie. It managed to do all of these different layers without sacrificing one single layer. You still
And
got
it's a
all
very
of it.
quick. It's only an hour and a half. It's a very quick.
Yeah,
movie.
which actually surprised me how short it was, but yet it didn't seem too short either. And they got everything you needed to get across, which was I think.
I'm always blown
Well,
away when a
just-
first time director can do a movie and actually get the pacing right. Like it blows me away because
Yeah,
so
exactly,
many
yeah.
directors, first time directors, don't have a good grasp of the pacing.
And
We've
we've
seen
seen
a
a
lot.
lot, you know, through our
Yes.
years of these podcasts where you see it and you could tell, oh, if they just snipped this scene a bit shorter, or if they just took this scene out or didn't put the scene. Yeah, but like this one, like just everything.
Like I was astonished because I
was
watched
done
this kind of in two halves. I started watching it and I got busy and I had to return back to it. And I was actually surprised when I looked down and I was like, oh, I've only got 15 minutes left. Like I thought I had only watched like 30 minutes of the movie. That's how quickly it goes by, and that's how quickly paced it is. There's no wasted moments in this movie at all, which I thought was great.
Yeah. I'll tell you, this one better be up for some chainsaws, I'll tell you, because there's some like very chainsaw worthy elements to this movie. I mean, just the movie itself and the
I
performances
think it
in
will
it.
be.
And you know, some of the gore in it. It's got to be up for some stuff. It's so good. And I am. Do they have best director?
Yeah, they do.
right,
Yeah,
for Chainsaw.
I think they got best first
do,
director too, like first feature film.
Oh yeah, well, because Bomani J. Story better be up for some stuff here because he was. I can't wait till see what comes. You know, what's next.
This was great. So, what did you have for our beer pairing, Brian? I kind of looked ahead, and I was excited about this one.
Yeah, so this was I wanted to get something that kind of like matched the movie, but like also had like, but it wasn't just like there was a million beers just called Frankenstein or Franken. So I found one more in the play in the other part of the title, and I found a beer called Modern Prometheus from Cigar City Brewing out of Tampa, Florida, which Cohen actually always gets to bring some of that because he drives down to Tampa. His in-laws live there. So he goes
that's
there
what I was
so,
excited about because I've been to this. I've been to Cigar City Brewing. That's where we used. Yeah,
it's a good brewery actually.
I used to have to go down there every year for training with my company. And we'd always hang out there, and that was one place we'd hit every time we were down there. So that was pretty cool. I haven't had this particular one because that was many years ago. But
yeah, no, I haven't either. I haven't seen this one, and this is a strong beer, 14.2%.
That'll turn you into Frankenstein,
but it right, yeah. But I felt like this movie deserved because it was such a strong movie with such good messaging and strong performances. We deserved a strong beer to go with it. So this is a blend of maple bourbon barrel aged imperial stout, Applejack Barrel Aged Imperial Stout, and Bourbon Barrel Aged Imperial Stout. So 3 blended stouts mixed in together, which kind of, they Frankenstein.
I get it.
They get the play on it. It's not all lost on me here. It says, have you ever wanted to do anything that was dangerous? Well, where should we be if no one tried to find out what lies beyond? And that's a little quote they put in there on it. And it says, its flavors are in proportion, and we've selected its barrels as beautiful. I don't know what that means. That's kind of a weird statement the way they said it because it ends there. But it says we blended maple bourbon barrel aged imperial stout, the Applejack, and the bourbon barrel aged stout for this masterpiece to come alive.
Nice.
So they definitely stayed in the right theme there, and so that was good. And that makes sense because this was a masterpiece of filmmaking. I feel.
And by the way, when we say, I know we've casually tossed around Frankenstein in terms of the monster. I don't care. I hate that argument. I don't care if I call it Frankenstein.
I know, yeah.
You call Band-Aids Band-Aids, even though they're not exactly Band-Aids. They're adhesive bandages.
Yeah.
So get over it. I hate the whole thing.
Yes, exactly. And I can't. We've said it enough times to know. Okay, we understand it's Frankenstein's monster.
It's just shorthand.
Even Universal frickin' says it half the time. So I can't deal with that every time.
If you're,
we can't. Why that's become such a
so
thing?
Annoying. And it's like
understand.
so like I don't know. It's like so snobby or whatever. Like actually Frankenstein was a monster. Like I don't give a crap. Like.
Isn't it technically Mr. Frankenstein?
I mean, it's shorthand. I've seen Frankenstein a billion times. I've probably seen it more than you have. So stop yelling at the podcast.
Well, second, and I mean, even if it's Frankenstein's monster, you have never abbreviated a statement.
You never use shorthand in speech because you don't want to say Frankenstein's monster and sound like an idiot. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Anyway,
we're not actually mad. It's a bit.
Yeah, but anyway, beyond that, I feel like we should like just make that the global statement. We'll never mention it again. But anyway, so I have a good fan topic for you. It's very heavy, just like this movie was at times. So it says, so Tim, if you had the ability to bring someone in your life back that obviously is lost, no longer with you, who would it be? And
okay, so I did have some questions around this one. So. Am I bringing them back? Okay. Are they going to be like normal? Or are they going to be like I don't want to. If they're going to be zombified or evil, like Pet Sematary, I'm not bringing anybody back like that. But let's say.
So okay, so I have a feeling you would ask that question. So I did kind of mentally prepare for this answer, and the way I'm going to look at it is, I think we have to do it in a kind of that line of like it is still a horror podcast. We're still kind of basing it off of the movie. So it kind of think of it in a world of like basically if you're dabbling in dark or weird science to bring someone back, you're obviously probably not going to get that person back the same way. Now I know, okay, without being a spoiler here, and if you want no spoilers, don't listen to this statement. But I know in this movie it ends up being a little bit different than most of the other ones. But my point is, I still think you definitely would not be they wouldn't, like, if someone passed away, they wouldn't come back exactly the same, like nothing was wrong. But you'd have the opportunity to bring them back. I'll almost put it in a way of like that movie I watched the other day. So maybe I'll tweak this question a little. Maybe it's like I watched that movie, The Other Side of the Door, where the one with Sarah Wayne Callies, where basically her son like is tragically killed, and she does this ritual where she can like go to this temple and she could talk to him and say goodbye to him, but she's not allowed to open the door to have him back into the world because he's not going to be the same, but she can talk to his soul. So like think of it like that. Like if you could bring the person back, they'd be there, let's say for a limited time, but they might not be the same. So it'd be more for you. Like basically, it wouldn't really
Okay,
benefit them at all.
I have a
Mostly-
easy this. Yeah,
So
yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
No, this would be
Where
an
I'm going with
easy
that? Okay.
one for me. So I would bring back my well, I call her Nana, my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, my Nana.
Yeah.
I would definitely bring her back because when she was alive, we actually talked about death a lot. She loved horror movies. Number one, she loved horror movies. She would always watch, whenever she babysat us, she would watch horror movies with us. She had a fantastic sense of humor. And we used to talk about, and she was also very religious, like super religious. Not in a overbearing way. I mean, her religion was personal to her. She wasn't trying to convert you or anything like that. That was her personal thing, and she was all in on it. But the subject of death came up even when I was little, and I remember she used to always say, well, if there's something on the other side, I'm gonna come back and haunt you. She used to like tease me. She would say something like that. She's like, when I die, I'm gonna come back and haunt you, and she would do stuff like that. And so, like I said, great sense of humor. And she even told me one time, because she had a heart condition, so she had gone through. She was never supposed to live past like the age of 16 with her heart condition.
Oh, wow.
So she had gone through in her life. She probably had 20 open heart surgeries. I mean, just crazy that she lived as long as she did. And so I think death was a lot on her mind a lot, because every time she went into surgery, she had a chance to go. Probably more than most people, because of the number of surgeries she'd had on her heart. And she'd even tell me, it was so interesting because she actually died on the operating table one time, where her heart technically stopped. I guess she was clinically dead for a couple of minutes or whatever. And she came back, and I said, "Did you see any bright lights or anything?" And she was like, "Nah, I didn't see shit," which I thought was funny. That was her exact quote.
Shoot, I want to bring her back. I want to talk to her
funny.
Now. She seems like she's awesome.
It's so great.
It's like that.
Yeah,
it's just Spaceballs.
But despite that, she was still like completely 100% devoutly Christian, like devoutly religious and everything. Like that never shook her faith or anything. So I would love, like, that, no brainer. I would bring her back and talk to her, because I think she would, even if she came back not quite the same, I think she would appreciate the humor of it, like the oddity of it, because of all that we had talked about when she was alive. So that would be mine. Yeah,
she'd probably.
She would totally mess with me. Yeah. She had dentures, and she would stick them out and scare me. She was great.
My god, that's awesome. See, now I should have went first, because mine's gonna probably end on a downer now. Yours was kind of like more entertaining. So this will be a little heavy. I would. So, and it's because of a specific situation. So I probably wouldn't, only because. One, I mean, because of all the movies I've seen, and I know it never ends well, and I'd probably be the bad luck side of it. You'd probably get the good one. I get the bad luck. But no, but what? So I always go back to this. When my grandmother, on my dad's side, was, she was definitely, I could tell, she didn't have much time left. She was at her assisted living, and I would go visit her. And you know how you just get that feeling when you're close to someone, that like maybe, okay, this might be the last time I see them or something. You just get that feeling. So I went in and. I went in and saw her, and she was as lucid as she'd been in like years. And we had this great talk, and we were chatting and stuff. And at that point, she'd met Julie, even though we were still living in different I said different countries, across the country. So anyway, but I was, so I remember I had this, we had a great time. We talked, and I went home, and I'm feeling good. And I'm just like, you know what? I kind of had this thought in my head, like I kid you not. I said, if that's the last time I see her. I have what a great, between all the memories we had all growing up and all this stuff, that'll be a great memory I had. We had such a nice time together. But like the Jewish guilt got to me, and I felt like, because at that point I would go over at least 3 times a week, because I knew, she wasn't really doing as good and, normally. But I thought that was like, and I kind of regret, and I felt guilty, and I'm like, I'm gonna regret it if I don't go see her one more time in case something happens. So I went, and she was not in a good place. She was confused, she was disoriented, and a day later she passed away. So, and I remember when I went there, and to make it worse, I was already kind of like, angry with myself. I said I should have just let that great memory be as it was. Because, it was like what it was. And then my dad goes, go in and see her one more time. After she'd passed away, I said, go say goodbye and see her. And I went in, and not to sound horrible, but she was like like in this twisted position, frozen like this. I can't get the image out of my head. It took me years to finally like actually kind of get the image out of my head to where I have to really like think about to get there. And I'm like, and so now I had this moment of like, oh my God, I had this great moment 3 days ago that I could have just left. I should have not listened to my dad and walked in to look at her, because I would have, I was going to see her at the funeral in the, in a coffin, which already, but you're used to seeing kind of that. But this was like, she must have like had passed like just like hours before. She was still in that weird state. And I was like kicking myself. And it took me like years and years to like really like kind of get that out of my head and kind of, so it's like, that's why I think like the only reason I wouldn't do that, and I think it depends on the person. Like it seems like you had a different relationship, like with, your grandmother. So that's why I would say that like specifically with this, because I bring it to anyone, to any other things. Like if of course, if I lost someone, like, you always want them to be with you, but if they're not the same person, it seems like in your case, it's such a beautiful story the way you told it, because it is, you feel like she would come back the exact same way, because you guys discussed it. Like I didn't have that discussion with my grandmother, and and so it's like, I remember it was like, so it's like, to me, I'm like, all my great memories like that had nothing to do with those, with it had other things to do with like joyous moments and things like that. And I wanted, and that's what I had gotten right before. So it's like, for a while, I like kicked myself. I'm like, why did I just not let that last moment be what it was that I kind of thought to myself could be that last moment? So that's why I would say in this situation, I would say no, because I don't think in the spirit of the question, they wouldn't be.
You wouldn't want to ruin, your memory.
I wouldn't want to ruin something, make it worse. Isn't that
weird though?
Really
the lucidity thing, like, because that happened with my. So this is kind of hard to explain, but I had a grandmother that wasn't blood related, but she was actually my mom. My mom was a single parent. She was raising us, and the man that she worked for and his wife, she had me while she was working for them, and they basically took the role of grandparents to me and my brother, and we basically grew up with them as our grandparents, kind of not legally adopted, not blood related, but to me they were my grandparents. And so when that grandmother died, and she was before she died, when she was in hospice, it was the same thing. Like she had pancreatic cancer, so she was heavy morphine and everything. So you'd go in and visit her, and she was like completely out of it. She thought she was in a hotel. She had no clue where she was. And and I remember I went in to see her a couple days before she died, and she was sitting there talking about, oh, this is a nice hotel and blah 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 blah. And then all of a sudden she just like looked straight at me, and you could tell like everything was clear. And she started talking to me about, you've brought so much joy to my life, and real conversations like that were not absolutely lucid.
Yeah,
and she was.
It's crazy how that always seems to be. Like I hear that story so many times. They get
one chance to say what they want to say or whatever. And she said, "You brought so much joy to my life," and blah 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 blah. And so I had this great conversation with her, and then I went back to see her the next day before she died, and she was completely gone. Like she was like completely delusional.
See, that's almost exactly like what happened to me.
Crazy. It's very strange. And then my granddad, the same way. He had Alzheimer's, and he was in the hospital. I went to visit him. This is my other granddad that was not blood related, but it was the same way. I sat there and had this great conversation with him, talking about things we used to do when we were kids. Like he would take us on the bus, and he would take us to the circus, and we had this great conversation. And he was completely, this is somebody that was in full-blown Alzheimer's, dementia. But for that moment, when I went to see him, he was completely clear. And we had this great conversation about our memories. And he even told me like what he wanted to be buried in. That's how clear he was. He said, please, pick out this suit and whatever. So, and so I that was the last time I saw him. But the crazy story on that one is the nurse told me after he died, she said, "Did you know what happened the other night?" I said, "No." She said, "I heard your granddad in there laughing." And I said, "Laughing?" And she said, "Yeah." She said he was having a good old time. And I said, "What was going on?" She said, I peeked my head in there. She said he was having a full-blown conversation with people I couldn't see. And he said he was talking to his brother, and his brother had been dead for years. He said he was talking to his brother. He was talking to people that were obviously related to him. She said that he was having a full-blown one-sided conversation and laughing up a storm the whole time. He said it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. So, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, see, that's usually what things like that happen when it's
so
close.
weird.
Like if you really believe that. So, because remember that day I was saying where my grandmother was kind of out of it too. I remember she was there with my brother and she was like looking behind them at somebody and talking over our shoulders up. And I remember it. I'm like, I'm like, I said, and my brother, I remember, I think I told my brother, I said, she was not like this the other day. I said, this is like, she's seeing something that we're not, she's talking to someone we do not see, we can't see.
It's so creepy, but yeah, it is. It really is.
Yeah, it's I mean, there's something also kind of like, if you look at it like it's creepy and everything, but if you look at it like in a positive way, it's like, that would be nice. Like, imagine you're at that state where you're about to go. And like you see people that you've missed over the years,
well, I mean, that's
looking at them, and you're actually, it's something like that, like because I'm terrified of death every second of the day, because because nobody knows, and it's one of these things that like, you figure like maybe if we didn't know, it'd be like it would basically just destroy it, like our brains couldn't handle it, like kind of thing. But maybe that's why at the very end you get that like welcoming. Like, I mean, if you're lucky enough to go that way and not
that's why that story from the nurse about my granddad, that made me feel a lot better, like.
Yeah. Sure. It probably gave you this like.
Yeah. Like,
warm,
like
he
he was,
good. Like, look at that. He's about to go see everybody,
I don't know. That's crazy.
Well, it's like those videos. Like, I want to like it guts me every time I see those videos where they're like, it shows the dog running on the beach. It's like, oh no, pass away. Here's who's waiting for you. And I'm like, oh God, please, no. I can't stand it. And there's one, by the way, I don't remember, but I stopped following them because it was so annoying. They would put these horrible, sad videos. And you could see that there was another thing to swipe to, and you'd swipe to, and it was an ad for something.
Oh my gosh!
Like, how dare you? You obviously are selling pet items to people you don't know.
That's so exploitive.
Like you don't know any pet owners, because any pet owner would like that guts them, and then you think you're gonna buy your product afterwards. Like, I might as well buy this kerchief, like for the dog. No, So I stopped them right away. I don't know what it is, but I saw a lot of people like how dare you write this? I'm unfollowing you. I'm like, you figure they would have gotten the case. But those gut me when I see those things. Where,
I can't. No, I hate
you and
that.
they're like been waiting for you that
I've seen
whole time.
TikToks of that where it's like what you see in heaven, and it's a dog running towards you. I'm like, no, don't do that.
Running your dog. I'm like, no, I know. It's like, I mean, I'm still like dreading the day, with when you own a pet, that most likely, if all things make sense, you're gonna have to, you're gonna outlive them, and it's just so like I'm like I don't want to think about it. I'm already like sometimes I'll just like sit there and be like all depressed because I'm like, I'm like I know it's gonna happen one day. Am I gonna be strong enough to do it? It's like kind of thing. What a
very unusual
episode,
but it's an unusual movie, and it's a very good movie.
It is. It that's what. But see again. Like, look at, like, when I said a movie, like, by a different point of view can inspire you for other things. It helps you grow. It helps you discuss things. It's, that's when people say the magic of movies, to transport you in that world far away or whatever, or transport you into it doesn't always have to be like, oh, I'm going to transport and save the world from aliens. No, it could do other things. It could make you feel better about something, or give you a perspective to calm you down about something, or charge you to do something about something that you don't feel is right.
And I would say to anybody that like won't watch a movie like this because they feel like it's too woke or whatever, open yourself up to different points of view, because that's where, like you said, that's where you grow as a person when you're uncomfortable. If it makes you uncomfortable, good. It's good if it makes you uncomfortable. It should make you uncomfortable, because when you experience things that are uncomfortable, like if I had never gotten on the roller coaster the first time, look at this podcast wouldn't exist. Me and Brian's friendship wouldn't exist. All that came out of overcoming a fear and doing something that was so out of my comfort zone. And I think that's really the lesson that I would stress to anybody out there. Like do like it was that old saying, like do something that you're scared of every day or whatever. Like there's a lot of truth in that. Yeah, there is. I mean, somewhat more than others. Like for me, that's pretty much something every day because I'm terrified of everything. But yeah. So anyway, all wrapping up everything. Definitely watch this movie. This is just a fantastic movie on so many levels. Not enough that we probably
could have discussed this for another 3 hours.
I want to give
but,
everybody a chance to see it without
also want to
spoilers.
be I want to be respectful to get everyone. We don't want to influence anyone. Let them discover it and see the impact on them without any much of a
and it's on
filter from
Shudder,
us,
so you guys have no excuse. You can go watch it
Yep.
anytime. We'll be back here next week, and we will see you then.
See ya.